Hello and welcome. You're watching the newstrack. I'm Rahul Kanwal. On this week's edition of the Political Stock Exchange, we'll look at the likely impact of the Pran Pratishtha at the Ram Temple in Ayodhya on the big general elections of 2024. You've seen the fervor of the devotees. How does that translate into data? Find out on this week's Political Stock Exchange.
Mandir 2024 poll issue number 1. Will Pran Pratishtha benefit BJP? What do voters think of opposition boycott? Biggest sentiment tracker on Ram Mandir. Political Stock Exchange.
We've seen the devotion, been through the rituals. Let's go through the data now. What kind of an impact will the Pran Pratishtha of the Ram Temple potentially have on the Lok Sabha elections of 2024? To talk about this, I'm joined on the Political Stock Exchange this week, and I want to introduce all our guests, starting with Yashwant Deshmukh, who heads up C-Voter. They're the polling agency that did this poll for us. We've got Ashutosh Verma of the Samajwadi Party, Anila Singh of the Bharatiya Janata Party. We've got Amitabh Tiwari, well-known political analyst, joining us. And let's get started. I want to take you through the first question that Yashwant and his team asked for this tracker poll. What is your opinion about the Ram Mandir Pran Pratishtha ceremony? What comes to your mind when you think of this ceremony? So let's take you through the options and let's see what respondents in the poll told Yashwant and his team. Here it is. 42.9% of the overall respondents said this is a celebration of all of India. 27.3% felt that this is a Sanatani ritual. 23% felt that this is a BJP RSS program. And 7% said they don't know or they can't say. Amongst opposition voters as well, and this is what is interesting, almost 36% of opposition voters felt that this is a celebration of the entire nation. Only 25.6% said this is a Sanatani ritual, and 29% felt this is a BJP RSS program. Of course, the NDA voters far more enthused about the Pran Pratishtha, but the interesting thing that everyone needs to note in the first question that I'm going to take up on this week's edition of the Political Stock Exchange is that even amongst opposition voters, the mood not very different, slightly at variance, but not very different from that amongst the overall population. And Yashwant Deshmukh, therein lies the story. The fact that even opposition voters seem to be largely or directionally aligned with the overall voters, which includes the NDA voters, may suggest that the Congress especially on this matter seems to have been on the wrong end of the national mood.
Absolutely right, Rahul, and that's what the mood on the ground is. And in fact, this has been for the last 3 decades or so such a flashpoint in the Indian political and social scenario. The issue of Ayodhya, it triggered so many communal polarizations as well. So I could not help myself to actually dig into the data further, going beyond the opposition and NDA voter to see, because I know, everybody thinks of this as a Hindu-Muslim issue. What was an interesting thing, Rahul, that I could sense was there is an approximately 25% of the Hindu bloc which is against this thing. A overwhelming majority was obviously in supportive of that. But interesting point was that approximately from 1/4 to 1/3 of even Muslim voters in India were of the positive side of this spectrum. And that's a very interesting finding for me, simply because we are used to see the data where almost like 95% plus when I used to see the data earlier, even among the Muslim respondents used to go on the negative side of the block. But that is no more in the same kind of intensity. And that tells us that not only that opposition of the Congress is is wrong in reading the ground on this sentiment, but probably even reading the emotion of the minorities at large, thinking that they are just en bloc against this thing. It's not like that.
Okay, let Ashutosh Verma respond to this, because even Akhilesh Yadav chose not to go. This tracker poll from Sea Voters suggests that maybe opposition leaders made the wrong choice. 36% of opposition voters think this is a celebration of the entire nation. You seem to have been caught on the wrong side of the political mood on this.
I don't find any reason to comment on this thing, because it's a typical political program which has been created by Bharatiya Janata Party. Everybody knows that Ram Navami is going to be coming in next 2 months. And you want to do a Ram Pratishtha, so why not to wait for next 2 months? It's obvious. The general election going to be coming in next 2 months. And the model code of conduct will not allow Bharatiya Janata Party to do this political campaign. This is a political religion which has been made by Bharatiya Janata Party. And there's nothing hidden about it. They have choice.
No, that's your point of view, and you've been saying this for a while. But what we are telling you is the report card, the pulse of the people. And that data suggests that what you're
Rahul,
saying is not in conformity with the large majority.
Let me complete. Rahul, let me complete. The Pran Pratishtha has been inaugurated on 23rd. We are discussing on 25th. What was the number which we have taken on this whole survey? Because in less than 48 hours,
let Yashwant answer that. He's questioning your sample size. He's questioning. Definitely. Okay, he's questioning the methodology. So
Rahul, it's a country of 140 crores.
Let Yashwant explain that.
And we can't discuss in 48 hours that this is a wrong decision.
Okay.
How can you? Once we win the election, then Yashwant Deshmukh ji said that, okay, it was a great move.
Let Yashwant explain it. Okay, Yashwant.
First of all, 1.4 billion people doesn't mean that you cannot scientifically sample with few thousand samples, that representativeness is ensured, number one. Number two, when we do thousands and thousands and lakhs of samples, all the agencies do on the exit poll. So this part that how can you do it in 48 hours? I can pretty much do 10,000 samples all across India and report to you in 60 minutes flat, sir. So let's not go into that. Please try to focus on the issue which is at hand. And in fact, while you go back to the Samajwadi Party representative, I must appreciate Samajwadi Party on one point, Rahul. I read the letter written in reply by Akhilesh ji to Champat Rai ji. The tone and tenor of the letter was actually appreciable. It was very different from the letter written by the Congress leaders. He simply wrote that I would like to come do the darshan along with the family once the Pran Pratishtha is over. Unlike the rest of the damning pieces that were added in their reply by the Congress leaders, accusing the entire thing to be the BJP propaganda and blah, 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 blah. It's very difficult for the public to see it that way. Of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the important factor out there, but let's also concede to the fact that barring the three constitutional post holders, that is the Chief Minister and the Governor and the Prime Minister, no other BJP leader was there on the Pran Pratishtha, present in the Pran Pratishtha. So obviously when public is watching that, this was an event which the data shows that public was very much enthusiastic about.
Let me come to the next question. The opposition is alleging that the Pran Pratishtha ceremony is taking place in an incomplete Ram temple. Do you agree with this allegation? Here it's interesting that a lot of the respondents in the poll actually think that this is correct. They're in fact agreeing with the assertion that this is happening in an incomplete temple. So let me take you through the responses to this poll. 36.4% of overall respondents said that the opposition's charge of the Pratishtha happening in the in an incomplete Ram temple is correct. So they felt that that is important. That's the biggest number there, 36.4. 35% said no, it doesn't really matter. No, the charge is wrong. It doesn't matter was 21.1%. Don't know was 7.2. Now this is where I want to go across to Anila Singh. The fact that the Pran Pratishtha has happened in an incomplete temple has rankled 36.4% of the respondents in the overall survey, not just amongst opposition voters. Even just amongst overall voters, 36.4 felt that the opposition's charge of doing the Pran Pratishtha in an incomplete temple is correct. Anila Singh.
My Ram Ram to all. And eventually they will understand the Pran Pratishtha done in Garbhagriha has been performed in a proper way, in the guidance all of learned Purohits. So nothing is wrong and they will understand it. Because opposition has done so much of propaganda. नहीं, अभी मंदिर पूरा नहीं है, प्राण प्रतिष्ठा कैसे हो गई? I mean, as if any Tom, Dick and Harry, he was trying to portray himself or herself as a Purohit, as a person who has got all the gyan of all the karma kand. The reality is, the top people in this field, they were consulted, they were of one view, and then this event of Pran Pratishtha has happened. So let them say whatever they say, the opposition and the people who are saying, the voters who are saying, yes, it should have been done once the temple was completed. Then I would like to tell them they should go and see what happened in Somnath temple as well. When Pran Pratishtha event happened, at that time, whole temple was ready or Pran Pratishtha was done. So this is a field where experts' comments matter. And I think the rest who doesn't have proper knowledge about it, they should spare themselves.
Sanjay Jha, what are you making of the first two responses? On the issue of the Pran Pratishtha itself, 43% of the respondents overall felt that this is a celebration for the nation, which has been your mood, but not that of the Congress party and most of the other opposition parties.
Rahul, there is no denying it is a very historic and an emotive occasion for the majority, I think, faith in this country. We are a majority Hindu country, and therefore that people are feeling euphoric or celebrating is a very natural human sentiment. But I'm a little astonished as to how a seasoned veteran like Yashwant, whom I respect enormously, made a rather disingenuous statement. He said that there were 3 people from the BJP. I mean, Anandiben Patel is been a former leader of the BJP in a state. And he forgets the presence of Mohan Bhagwat of the RSS. I mean, Mohan Bhagwat representing the RSS there on that occasion is a significant message of the ideological, political combine at work. I mean, that to me is the most conspicuous, extraordinary presence amongst the other politicians. Everybody knows the UP Chief Minister, Modi himself, and everybody else is a politician. So the opposition is completely justified in saying, listen, this is a sacred event. It's meant to be highly sacrosanct, and it need not have become a saffron project, number one. Number two, very important, I do believe, Rahul, that the Hindus in this country are essentially a very tolerant community. I think people within our community, and I am part of the Hindu, religion, and a very proud one at that, I can tell you this, that people are religious, they're not communal. And everyone here, I think, that I have met, while celebrating the occasion, are also very disappointed that the Shankaracharya's statements, which I think nobody can ignore, that the BJP has just trampled over it and gone ahead and pretended as if everything is hunky-dory. They did mention that the Pran Pratishtha was against the Dharam Shastras as they deem it fit. They also talked about the Ram Navami occasion coming up, which I think Mr. Verma mentioned it before me. But more important, they said it need not have even been giving the impression that this was being used as an electoral ploy. I think these are larger moral questions that individuals have to decide for themselves.
Okay, I come to question number 3. Do you think the opposition leaders made a mistake by not attending the Ram Mandir Pran Pratishtha? Let me take you through the responses to this question. This really is at the nub of this debate. Were the opposition leaders right in staying away from the Pran Pratishtha or not? Here is what the mood of the nation on this is. 54.4% of the respondents saying yes, the opposition leaders are wrong in boycotting the Pran Pratishtha. 44.5% of opposition voters said that opposition leaders were wrong. 27% of opposition voters said no, they're not wrong, and 22% of the overall voters said no, the opposition leaders did not make a mistake. That's only 1 in 5, but almost 5.5 out of 10 said that this is a mistake. And I want to go across to Amitabh Tiwari on this, where even amongst the opposition voters, a very large chunk, 45% saying that opposition leaders staying away is a mistake even in the eyes of the opposition voter. Amitabh Tiwari.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it shows that the highest percentage of respondents amongst the opposition itself believe that the decision of the opposition to boycott the event was not correct. And this ties in with the first question, wherein again, despite 43% people saying that it's a celebration of the nation, from the opposition voters also, the highest 37% again are saying that it is a celebration of the entire nation. And this ties in with what PM Modi said in his speech on that day, that Ram sabke hai, Ram is of everyone, correct? And clearly it shows that even amongst the opposition voters, the boycott has not been taken down very kindly. It is voters. See, it's 44%. It is almost equal to no plus don't know sort of, correct? Because don't know is a no man's land sort of. And on the question of whether the Pran Pratishtha was being conducted in when the building was complete or not, if you see the yes and a no are almost same, 35, 36. And there it doesn't matter, which is 21% matters a lot, because ultimately this 35, 36% who were saying that perhaps the opposition charge is correct is not getting reflected in the celebration of the nation, or in the third question wherein a bulk of them are saying that the decision of the opposition is not correct, and a bulk of them again were saying perhaps that the Pran Pratishtha was a celebration of the nation.
Okay. Ashutosh Verma, you want to come in on the fact that 54% of overall voters think opposition leaders made a mistake, even amongst those who say they vote for the opposition. 45% of the voters said boycotting the Ram Mandir Pran Pratishtha was a mistake.
So again, Rahul, I will comment in who is the question, who is the person to whom they asked the question. Definitely, they are the large chunk of devotees which you have asked the question. They will definitely say
you
that
understand how polling happens. This is a scientific stratified sample. It's
Rahul,
the basis
again,
of polling all across the world. If you don't believe in polls, you shouldn't come to a show like the Political Stock Exchange. I'm shocked by how juvenile your responses are.
I'm not shocking. The definite
your
reason
responses
is
are very juvenile.
The questions has been asked to the person who are the devotees of there who was going to the Ram Pratishtha program.
If that's your response,
so
then I'm afraid you understand nothing about how polling happens. Your understanding of polling and data is close to zero.
No. You are genuinely creating a confusion among the voters by giving this political change program. I don't know how Bharatiya Janata Party has make a big political program across the media, across the world. They are giving us this message that we are going to in general election and we are doing just because of election. There's nothing like that. The Supreme Court has given the verdict.
Let Yashwant Deshmukh defend his numbers. Yashwant ji, आप पे charge लग रहा है कि आपने भक्तों से पूछा है. भक्तों से पूछोगे तो यही जवाब मिलेगा.
मुझे तो ये अजीब लग रहा है कि आशुतोष जी, आपके नेता ने, मैंने तारीफ की अभी कार्यक्रम में कि आपके नेता ने जो पत्र लिखा वो बहुत अच्छा,
वो तारीफ अलग चीज है,
तारीफ इस बात की उसमें की कि आपके नेता का, नहीं मेरी बात सुनिए, मैंने आपको नहीं रोका. मैंने तारीफ इस बात की कि आपके नेता इस बात को समझ रहे हैं कि मूड क्या है जमीन पर, और आपने मंदिर के खिलाफ स्टैंड नहीं लिया, जिस तरीके का स्टैंड या जिस तरीके का की एक कड़वी भाषा का प्रयोग कांग्रेस के पत्र में हमको दिखाई दिया था. आपके नेता के पत्र में वो कड़वी भाषा नहीं दिखाई. उसका कारण यह है कि आपके नेता भले ही एंटी भाजपा की धुरी पे हो, लेकिन वो शायद इस बात को समझ रहे हैं कि बहुत पानी सरयू में बह गया है और हिंदू वोट एक रियलिटी है, अयोध्या एक रियलिटी है, और उस पॉलिटिक्स को प्ले करना एक रियलिटी है. ये मैं समझने की कोशिश कर रहा हूं. और जो एक प्रोबेबिलिटी के ऊपर जो सैंपल है, जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव सैंपल है, उसमें देखिए संजय भी यहाँ पर है. संजय और हम लोग हर समय एक दूसरे की टांग खिंचाई भी करते हैं, लेकिन आंकड़ों के ऊपर हम ग्लास हाफ फुल या ग्लास हाफ एम्प्टी, केवल इसकी एनालॉजी में जाते हैं कि हमारा दृष्टिकोण क्या है इसको देखने का.
Now let me respond. Ashutosh, if you're going to listen, I'm happy to come to you, but you have to give a smart answer. This is a smart show for intelligent people, right? If you're going to give me a dumb answer and you want to question that bhakto se pucha hoga, that's just like, go back to kindergarten and study some data and statistics.
I study every day. Need not to teach me. देखिए, कहने की बात यह है कि अगर आप 48 घंटे के अंदर इस देश का मूड पकड़ सकते हैं तो चुनाव लड़ने की जरूरत नहीं है। सबको पता है इस देश में कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने पूरा का पूरा प्रोग्राम पॉलिटिकल बनाया है। इसमें आप भले ही आप टीवी पे कुछ भी बोलते रहें, भले ही देशबंधु 50 बार पूछते रहें, और जो राम भक्त हैं, जो हम जैसे भक्त हैं, जिनको जाने का मौका मिलेगा, हम क्यों नहीं जाएंगे? लेकिन एक पॉलिटिकल मूव है भारतीय जनता पार्टी का चुनाव के ठीक 2 महीने पहले, ये सब जानते हैं।
Okay, Amitabh Tiwari also wants to come in because, you know, how are you looking at some of the juvenile responses we are getting from the Samajwadi Party leader? He's saying you must have asked
you may call it
only devotees.
You are expert, I know. You may call me juvenile, but this is the reality.
How is it the reality? The data is the data. You can agree or disagree, but to say that you've only spoken to devotees. Okay, just turn him down. Let Amitabh Tiwari come in on some of how the opposition seems to be in complete denial about what's going on here.
See, essentially, Ashutosh Ji is saying that this was essentially a BJP RSS program, but he is not looking at the data in which their own voters, only 29% of them are actually agreeing with his statement, and 36% of them are saying that it was in fact a celebration of the nation. See, this is not a seat tally or a vote share survey. This is measuring the sentiment of the people, and the number of samples which Yashwantji has taken is pretty decent to calculate or to measure the sentiment of the people during an event. 48 hours में इंडिया में आज के डेट में जहां डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी इतनी ज्यादा बढ़ गई है, बहुत ज्यादा टाइम होता है। 50,000 से 1 लाख सैंपल इस दौरान आराम से कवर हो सकते हैं, आराम से कवर हो सकते हैं।
And maybe you need to you actually need to apply some of these techniques to kind of get a sense of which way the mood is going. I would in fact suggest doing some of this polling before deciding what position to take. In fact, it happens internationally where very often Republicans, Democrats, they do a very quick round of sample to see how people are looking at an issue before deciding their point of view, or how people are looking at their positions and calibrate their positions accordingly. I mean, the world is changing, and maybe the Samajwadi Party and the opposition also needs to get with it and understand how the game is changing, Sanjay Jha. Because if it doesn't happen, given the amount of polling the BJP does, here, just listening to Ashutosh gives me a sense that the opposition is going by gut, rather than going by data, rather than going by what empirical evidence is saying. They're going by their gut, and going by their gut is often a very dangerous thing to do.
I maintain what I told you in your own show a couple of days ago, I think, that the Congress party and the opposition should have gone for the Pran Pratishtha, and at the same time could have completely attacked and torn to shreds the BJP's attempt to politicize a very pious event. I think that would have echoed even better with, I think, a large section of people who are truly religious. I agree with Mr. Verma's assertion. He's not wrong when he says that this is a political project, and that's exactly what even we have been saying. However...
No, once again, Sanjay, I'm trying to draw a distinction. To say this is a political project, he's very well entitled to, because that's the opposition's point of view. To say that the data is only spoken to devotees just betrays a complete lack of understanding of how polling happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm getting the same sense when I talk to people. I can tell you this for a fact, Rahul. When you look at the data of the number of people who are opposition supporters who are saying that the opposition should have been present or the Congress should have been present, they're not wrong. I don't think they will shift their loyalty or the vote to the BJP. Not at all. But I do feel that everyone believes that tactically, strategically, you ought to not allow the BJP to appropriate an event no matter how hard they will try. And you can see that, right? I mean, you're a veteran. We all know, all of us on this program are pretty adult and smart to know that this is a political project. There is no doubt that the state and the religion are being conflated. But the opposition has to realize that you need a savvy political communication to be there, to be part of the entire consecration ceremony, to celebrate that, and at the same time, expose the BJP's attempt to try and politicize Bhagwan Ram.
Okay, I want to come to the next question. Do you think the Ram temple will become the big issue of the 24 elections? Let's see what respondents in this C-voter poll had to say. Will this be the #1 issue? Now, conventional thinking, Amitabh Tiwari, before the Ram temple ceremony has been that, that the political steam in this issue has gone. That, of course, it will be an issue, but it won't be the biggest issue. At this moment, and of course, this response is impacted by the recency effect because you've just asked this question soon after this massive Pran Pratishtha. Therefore, viewers will be skewed in this direction. But for what it's worth, 54% of the respondents say yes, the Ram Mandir issue will be the biggest issue of the 24 elections. 65% of NDA voters feel the same, and 47% of opposition voters also think that the Pran Pratishtha ceremony will be the biggest issue of the Lok Sabha elections. Let me go across to Amitabh Tiwari on this. Amitabh, is this the result of the recency effect that you've just done this ceremony, you're asking this question the day after? Or do you think that this could well be the case, given how the BJP has whipped up a religious sentiment in the large part of the country, that this could possibly be the number one issue of the next elections?
Yeah, some of it, of course, has to do with recency bias, of course. But it could emerge as the biggest issue. And we have to understand that BJP as a political party actually has never encashed this issue in any election. 1991 UP election is the only election where BJP was able to encash this issue. And since it has been able to fulfill a long pending demand or its promise, and since the build-up to the event, the momentum that the party is likely to maintain for the next 2 months, when it is likely to conduct a campaign carrying or helping people who want to go and visit the Ram Mandir temple, and this could really become an important issue. Again, by starting or visiting temples in the south of India, and by saying that the Ram Setu, I have come from the Ram Setu to the Saryu River, Modi has also tried to neutralize this north-south divide, which the opposition was trying to create and trying to establish that in the south, this issue may not be such a significant issue. But if 54% of the entire respondents say that, it means that this issue is resonating across the country. Of course, the level or the degree could be different. And people generally say that BJP has maxed out in the north of India. I was just looking at the data. BJP won 155 out of 191 seats. So there is still some upside left. BJP won some 60 odd seats, 50 odd seats out of the 80 in the west. So there is still some upside left. So if this becomes an issue, then these seats could come into the play.
Yashwant Deshmukh, do you really believe at this time, from what you know, that this could be the number one issue? Or do you think that this is really not the right time to ask this question, because you've done it a day after the Pran Pratishtha, and of course at that time it feels like the biggest issue?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a recency effect, I would say. I mean, the kind of experience which tells me, but it will remain one of the big issues for sure. I mean, more important, and Sanjay was absolutely right when he said these kind of, I don't really think that the Congress voter will swing to the BJP. You know, that's not going to happen. But what will happen, probably these kind of issues energize the cadre. These kind of issues energizes the rank and file, particularly of the BJP, to get mobilized for the electioneering and mobilized for the polling day, turnout. That could be a factor, and that could make a difference in the relative turnout. That's an important thing to observe here. But having said that, I genuinely do believe that this has also a recency issue. It's still 8 to 12 weeks of political campaign. If the elections are held the way they were happening in five years back around April and May, then some more issues will crop up. There are genuine issues which the opposition has to play, ranging from inflation to unemployment. It depends on how much opposition actually take this fight into the BJP's camp. As far as BJP is concerned, they are probably going to campaign like, we have delivered on the governance and we are delivering on the Ram Mandir as well. So they would like to take that high ground, and they have already taken the lead. Just like Amitabh just mentioned, that before coming to the north, he did go to the south. And by the way, in the retrospect, I also, on the lighter note, I also feel maybe I would have known, if I had known that the Murti is going to be a Shamavarna Murti, whether that is being taken as a black stone is also taken as a better signal in the south of what generally big number of people in the south are set to look at the Ram Temple thing as a North thing, if I may say so. So that would, these kind of optics, which are at play, probably it needs time to map whether
Sanjay,
BJP will
here's
gain anything
what's
in the
quite
south.
clear to me, that even if it isn't the biggest issue at this moment, it looks like overwhelmingly the biggest issue, because 54% of the respondents are saying it's the biggest issue. But even if it isn't 54, even if this comes down because of the recency effect, this will still be one of the big issues. Now, how big, bigger, biggest, that we can debate, but it still will be one of the important issues of 24 elections.
Rahul, without doubt, I think one has to always understand this point that religion, these are sentimental, emotional issues. And I do believe that no matter the seriousness of the unemployment, which I think nobody can deny, the food inflation, the decline in rural wages, what I call as the real value of the real wages for the agriculture labor in India, there are serious problems at the local level across the country. I mean, poverty by the UNDP is estimated at 230 million. That's a humongous number. We are talking about extreme poverty. Why is the government giving 57% of the people of India free food grains? That tells you that not everything is good at all. You can razzle and dazzle on some infrastructure projects, but the truth is that trickle-down growth has not happened over 10 years. So the election is up for grabs, in my opinion. But I cannot deny, having been part of the political mainstream, that end of day in any campaign, it's the emotional issues that really come into play. And that is the reason why I think the opposition has to create a narrative. And unfortunately, none of them are great in political communication. Certainly the Congress isn't. You need to know how to create a story about the young.
And the narrative that's coming from the India Alliance is one of whether Nitish is unhappy, whether he's going to walk back. Bhagwant Mann saying, AAP will fight alone in Punjab. It's not a narrative which suggests any cogent attempt to take on the Prime Minister. It sounds like a very ragtag coalition. Modi is marching with purpose. The BJP's got its election machine rolled out. And the India Alliance at this moment, Sanjay Jha, is looking completely in disarray.
Absolutely. And I think that to me was the biggest disappointment yesterday of Mamta talking about going on her own. Today, the news of Nitish in Bihar. I don't think the opposition is realizing that seat distribution is critical. Yes, it is. But you need to start by now. The opposition has to be talking in a language of a challenger who believes they can be a winner. You play sports, Rahul, so do I. Ultimately, the challenger has to have a very different, rugged mentality. And I think they have lost a lot of time. I do think that the reason why the entire, Pran Pratishtha happened earlier is because I think Mr. Modi can camouflage a lot of his failures by actually driving in the element that, listen, we fulfilled a promise, it satisfies 80% of India's population, and it builds into that sentiment that you need. And I do feel that I don't agree with Amitabh when he says that the BJP hasn't leveraged the Ram Temple. It has. I mean, the entire resurrection of the BJP from 2 Lok Sabha seats in 1984 to winning the assembly whenever they did, and the Lok Sabha where they actually bounced into a huge number happened because of the Ram Temple movement. So I do believe that the BJP is now going to ruthlessly play this game. Mr. Modi showed you a trailer. For 2 weeks prior to the Pran Pratishtha, he was doing a pan-India tour. For what reason? He was playing up the build-up to a crescendo. And I think the opposition needs to understand the game is not over, but I believe the opposition has shot itself in the foot by not playing his cards well.
Ashutosh Verma, it's almost as if you've got a chess grandmaster planning every move, building up to the Ram Temple, going to different parts of the country. And the opposition is just flapping around, looking at what the Prime Minister is doing, reacting in a very disjointed kind of fashion. I mean, Mamata Banerjee fighting alone, Nitish Kumar potentially walking away, AAP fighting alone. All of this basically seems to suggest the battle is over even before the war has begun. The war is over even before the battle has begun.
राहुल, कुछ समय पहले ऑर्गेनाइजर ने एक बहुत अच्छा लेख लिखा था. उसमें लिखा था कि Am I audible?
Yeah.
तो ऑर्गेनाइजर ने एक बड़ा अच्छा लेख लिखा था. और ऑर्गेनाइजर मोदी का चेहरा और राम मंदिर के मुद्दे को हम लेके 2024 के इलेक्शन पे अकेले नहीं जा सकते हैं. मुझे लगता है कि आरएसएस का लेख भी बहुत ही ज्यादा पॉलिटिकल डाटा के साथ में होता है और वो ऐसे ही हवा में नहीं लिखते हैं. नंबर 1 तो उसको देखना चाहिए. दूसरी चीज भी बार बार ये बोला जा रहा है कि ममता जी अलग लड़ रही हैं, वो अलग लड़ रहे हैं, नीतीश जी अलग. तीसरी बैठक बेंगलोर में ये बात क्लियर हो गई थी, केरला मॉडल पे ही पंजाब और वेस्ट बंगाल लड़ा जाएगा. कैसे वेस्ट बंगाल में हम भारतीय जनता पार्टी को मुख्य विपक्षी पार्टी बना सकते हैं या केरल में बना सकते हैं? भारतीय जनता पार्टी ये बात को प्रचारित कर रही है, बार बार फैला रही है कि इंडिया गठबंधन में परेशानी है। परेशानी है ही नहीं, परेशानी ये है कि परेशानी हो नहीं रही है और उसको कैसे बनाई जाए। कल लगातार जिस प्रकार से आप लोगों ने बात की, संजय झा ने बात की, उन्होंने पूरा भाषण ही नहीं सुना। कर्पूरी ठाकुर ने जो भी बात उठाई वो सिर्फ परिवारवाद पे नहीं थी। उन्होंने बताया कर्पूरी ठाकुर की सरकार किस प्रकार से आरएसएस के लोगों ने गिराई, लेकिन मीडिया के बहुत बड़े हिस्से ने वो बात छुपा दी और वो बात छुपाई जिससे इंडिया गठबंधन में टूटने की बात दिखे। तो ये आधा सच दिखा के इस देश को बरगलाया जा रहा है। मुझे लगता है कि देश को सबको पता है कि इंडिया गठबंधन इंटैक्ट है और कहीं ना कहीं बहुत पहले जो आरएसएस ने बोला था कि मोदी का चेहरा अब वो ताकत नहीं रह गई है, वो दिखने जा रहा है। 2024 में बदलाव होने जा रहा है, आप माने या ना माने। मैं दूसरा शब्द जरूर बोल दूंगा, राम मंदिर का मुद्दा भारतीय जनता पार्टी के पास सन 89 से जरूर है और वो था और वही लोग वोट आज भी भारतीय जनता पार्टी के पास एक और एकमात्र शस्त्र है, वो है राम। उस पे उन्होंने कई बार कोशिश करी, वो जीते भी और हारे भी। देश के लिए, इस देश के 140 करोड़ के लिए वो एक आस्था का विषय है और रहेगा।
So let me come to the next question. Is the BJP going to benefit from the Pran Pratishtha in the 24 elections? First we said, will it be the big issue? Then secondly, will the BJP benefit? So response is very similar to the previous question. Let me take you through the answers. 51% of the overall voters thinking yes, the BJP will benefit from the Ram Mandir in the Lok Sabha elections. 73% of NDA voters think that the BJP will benefit. 36% of opposition voters also think the BJP will benefit. 44% of opposition voters say no, the BJP will not benefit, and 33% of opposition voters say no, the BJP will not benefit. But overall, Anila Singh, 51% of the overall voters seem to think that the BJP will benefit. So you've got laddus in both your hands right now. Or if I were to go back to Ayodhya and the Ram Mandir, say you've got the Khurchan ka peda on both hands.
See, according to this survey, just now you mentioned only 51% people are thinking that this is going to help Bharatiya Janata Party in upcoming elections. So let me tell you, it will not be 51%, it will be much above than 51%. I am 100% sure. And any political party, any person, any organization, any institute in this nation of ours or in the world, if they think that Bharatiya Janata Party is going to be benefited by Bhagwan Shri Ram, then we are mighty happy. Because our political party has stood very strongly with the cause. Our leaders have gone through all the pain, all the agony. They got Ladi, Danda, Gali, Goli, inquiry, everything. They have gone to jail as well. No political party can claim this. Only Bharatiya Janata Party. And I was listening anti-Modi rant. I was sitting here and I was listening everything which was said about Modi ji. Modi ji is one prime minister who is working so hard on all the parameters, on all the verticals of human development. I was listening to Mr. Sanjay Jha. I was listening to Mr. Ashutosh Verma also, and I totally challenged them. I can challenge them on infrastructure, I can challenge them on health, I can challenge them on education, on everything. This government has worked day in and day out, they are working. So you cannot say that it is just because of Bhagwan Shri Ram we are going ahead in 2024 elections. हाँ, Bhagwan Shri Ram का आशीर्वाद है क्योंकि भगवान श्री राम सत्य, दया, करुणा, धर्म, मर्यादा का उदाहरण है, and we follow that. This is a basic difference. And when Mr. Ashutosh Verma was questioning about the way survey has done, perhaps he was thinking, अरे हिंदुओं का सर्वे क्यों किया? ये सर्वे तो मुसलमानों के बीच में होना चाहिए था. फिर पता चलता कि आंकड़े क्या होते हैं.
Can I just, for the sake of those who don't understand how the polling happens, just reiterate that this is a stratified sample, which means you go to every community, every section of society, and that's how the sample is composited. It's not to either Hindus.
Perhaps he thought that every bit should have been done amongst one particular religious community because they do the appeasement politics.
Okay.
This is the politics they know.
Okay. Let's come to the next question. Shankaracharya Saraswati of Jyotirpith of Joshimath and Shankaracharya Nishalanand Saraswati of Puri have opposed the Pran Pratishtha ceremony in the incomplete Ram temple. According to you, are the two Shankaracharyas right in opposing the Pran Pratishtha because the temple hasn't been completed yet? So what do voters think of the responses from the two Shankaracharyas? Let me take you through the responses to this question. 24% of the respondents say the Shankaracharyas are right. They agree with them. 52% of the respondents don't agree, and 24% are actually confused. Now, this is where it gets interesting, Yashwant Deshmukh. This is the highest number of don't know, can't say from anywhere, because this is a matter of rituals, this is a matter of belief, and when the Shankaracharyas themselves have taken a position, it's quite natural for voters to feel a bit confused, saying, hey, we don't really know.
Exactly, and it also includes the 51%. Also includes approximately a quarter of the people, which in the very first question, Rahul said that it doesn't really matter. So yes, there is a bit of confusion. There is a bit of also people saying, does it really matter? What is important thing is that Pran Pratishtha is happening, temple is being opened. I think nobody can go across and say that there is no politics in it, Rahul. That is a point well taken. I think, Amitabh has said this and everybody acknowledges that. Even Sanjay says that there is no way that there is no politics in it. There is absolute politics in it. But at the same time, I think this was also an occasion where people were willing to think beyond politics. And people were largely happy, and not just the Hindus were happy, a substantial, huge chunk of even Muslim respondents were happy. So I think the question where we are going to go from here, Rahul, that's a bigger point of thinking, argument, debate, or the forward-looking. Where do we go from here? And that's where I would like, to put my word as a data person, but dissecting the data where I looked into opportunities of truth and reconciliation and a peaceful future forward. I think we should cherish the 1/4 of the Hindus who are not agreeing to it. And we should equally cherish the 1/4 Muslims who are saying that this is a celebration of the nation and who are happy about it. Because these are the windows of opportunities, Rahul, where the reconciliation process starts. And I think reconciliation is the thing which was the theme to be underlined, not just in what Mr. Modi said the other day, but also importantly what the RSS chief said.
Okay, let's come to the second last question. Just a couple of minutes to go for the show. According to you, who's made the biggest contribution in the construction of the Ram Temple? Very interesting responses in my view, because everybody wants to take credit quite naturally, but what does the Indian Janta think? Who do they think has the maximum contribution? Interestingly, 37% of the respondents think the maximum contribution came from the Supreme Court. 34% say it's from the Modi government. 7.5% say it's the VHP and RSS. 3.4% say it's the Rajiv Gandhi government. Now, interestingly, Amitabh Tiwari, 37% of the respondents think it's the Supreme Court, which in a way it is, because if the Supreme Court hadn't said yes, this would have never happened. So people acknowledging, this is where the smartness of the Indian voter comes through. So he's not just crediting Modi, Modi, Modi. He realizes that the doors to the construction were actually opened by the Supreme Court in the verdict that they gave.
Yeah, so this is where the literacy levels and the awareness levels of the Indian voter and the maturity is being reflected, wherein the highest percentage of people are saying that this Supreme Court takes the credit of the Ram Mandir construction. However, if you add Modi government and RSS and VHP, that number supersedes this number. So that number is around 42-ish, if I'm not wrong. So 42 versus 37. So the entire discussion about how this event was political, I would say, is also getting reflected in the numbers, because Modi government is taking almost equal credit and the RSS, VHP are also taking some credit, and that in a way is actually exceeding the Supreme Court. And this I would give credit to the BJP's massive communication infrastructure of WhatsApp groups, where the messages are communicated on a daily basis and reaches the last mile voter at the booth level.
I want to come to the last question on this poll. Do you think the participation of government representatives in the Ram Mandir Pran Pratishtha program will have a negative impact on the secular image of India? So does India's secular image get impacted as a result of the religious fervor with which the Prime Minister and other government functionaries participated in this program? Here are the responses. 24% saying yes, government participation will have a negative impact on India's secular image. 56% saying no. But 25% is also not a small number, because 18% are saying they don't know. So you can roughly add up that 18 and the 24, which kind of suggests that there are concerns, even though the vast majority is saying no, but amongst the others, Yashwant Deshmukh, there are concerns about the impact this may have on India's secular image. So this is not a one-sided answer. So 24% saying yes, it will definitely have an impact, and 18% don't know really.
Yes, and as I mentioned, Rahul, that this is the 1/4 voter, which is a window of opportunity even for the reconciliation on the other side, and also the fact that almost half the opposition voters are saying no, it doesn't. 48% of the opposition voters saying that it doesn't impact on the secular India image. Something is telling me that we have moved on, Rahul, on this particular issue. This issue has been settled through the Supreme Court. That was a wise thing to do, because remember, when this thing was being discussed, we also knew there was huge pressure on Modi government by the RSS and the affiliate that a law should be passed in the parliament. But I believe that Modi government did the wise thing to wait for the Supreme Court to give the verdict and go by the law. That's where I think the legitimacy of the entire process comes in. That's why the big number of people actually credit Supreme Court for the construction in that way. And again, as I mentioned, what the minorities or the points which on this way or that way are the opening windows, where I think the future is going to head. Okay. What that question has to be discussed more and more, and with open mind and open hearts.
Earlier this week, we saw the fervor of the devotees. Now we've seen how that translates into data across the political spectrum. I want to thank our guests for joining me on this week's edition of the Political Stock Exchange. We'll be back again with the most latest issue next week. Yashwant and his team will be at it, looking at how the public mood is reacting to every issue that's playing itself out. You're on board the newstrack. Mamata Banerjee is already out. The question is, will Nitish Kumar be next? Sources tell India Today that the Bihar Chief Minister is set to break up his Mahagathbandhan and may be walking out of the partnership with the RJD and the Congress. The last straw seems to be a series of social media posts made by Lalu Yadav's daughter Rohini Acharya, taunting Nitish Kumar of changing ideology as fast as the wind changes its direction.
Cracks in the Bihar coalition are getting wider, and suspense is building around Nitish Kumar's next political move. On Wednesday, the Bihar Chief Minister set the cat among the pigeons with this comment on dynasty politics.
कभी अपने लड़के को नहीं बढ़ाए थे जी सर, हम अपने भाई को ही शुरू से ही आसरी केंद्र में मंत्री रहे जी, अब अभी राज्यसभा में है, अब पार्टी के राज्यसभा के नेता हैं, पार्टी के जनरल सेक्रेटरी हैं, सब कुछ है.
The messaging and the swipe at his allies, the RJD and the Congress, was not lost on anyone. On Thursday, Nitish's barb was countered by Lalu Prasad's daughter Rohini Acharya. Taking to Twitter, she posted, and we quote, "He claims to be a socialist leader, but his own ideology changes like the wind. Some can't see their own shortcomings, but they continue to fling mud at others." Lalu's daughter didn't explicitly name Nitish, but she tellingly deleted her posts just hours later. And therefore, it's clear as day who these posts were really targeted at.
Top sources have told India Today that the Mahagathbandhan government in Bihar was on its last leg, and Chief Minister Nitish Kumar may soon take a decision on snapping ties with the RJD. According to sources, the series of tweets by Rohini Acharya targeting the Bihar Chief Minister was the final nail in the coffin.
मुझको याद है कर्पूरी जी के जो बेटे रामनाथ ठाकुर हैं, जब उनको एमएलए का टिकट दिया गया तो कर्पूरी ठाकुर जी ने लड़ने से मना कर दिया कि बेटा लड़ेगा तो हम नहीं लड़ेंगे. तो ये प्रतिबद्धताएं समाजवादी आंदोलन की थी. राजनीति में पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी एक ही परिवार की जो परवरिश है वो लोकतंत्र के लिए स्वस्थ नहीं.
There's big buzz that the Bihar Chief Minister is laying ground for switching sides to the BJP-controlled NDA once again. In his social media post hailing the Bharat Ratna to OBC icon Karpuri Thakur, Nitish explicitly thanked the Prime Minister. His party has already made its displeasure at the delay in seat-sharing talks with the Congress pretty clear. Nitish also refused to be named convener of the opposition India Alliance.
महागठबंधन में नीतीश कुमार अगर चुनाव लड़ेंगे तो उनके दल जदयू को 5 सीट भी नहीं आएगा। और ये 2 महीने से हम बात कह रहे हैं और उनके दल वाले भी समझ रहे हैं कि अगर प्रशांत किशोर कह रहा है तो 5 सीट नहीं आएगा, इसीलिए भगदड़ होनी ही है।
So will Nitish Kumar, commonly called Paltu Ram by his critics, make another political palti? Sources in the BJP say that if Nitish returns to the NDA, he will have to quit the post of Chief Minister. The question is, will Nitish agree? With Rohit Singh in Patna, Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where I wrap up the news track tonight. Our teams will be on the ground tracking the Republic Day celebrations and the presence of French President Emmanuel Macron in India. So that coverage all through the day tomorrow on India Today. Goodbye, good night. I'll see you tomorrow.